Welcome to class. Last week we did something on modeling. I taught you how to model clay, how to knead clay, how to manipulate clay to get your desired designs. This week we are going to look at another interesting topic, which is art terminologies. What is art terminologies? They are languages, terms used by artists to qualify practical exercise, materials, tools. Join me in this class as we explore more art terminologies.
Yes, today's topic is art terminology in three-dimensional form. What are art terminologies? Art terminologies are body of works that are particular to art. They are words commonly used in art and are simply referred to as art language. For instance, the word donkey is an animal in everyday use, but in art terms or language, a donkey means a seat used for drawing, painting, and doing all that sort of graphical works. Amateur. Amateur. A rigid framework, often wood, steel, used to support a sculpture or other large work while it is being made. Amateur is mainly used for artworks like cement, concrete, and also bronze works where you need reinforcement. Bronze works, the next picture you can see there is bronze work. Bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, sometimes containing small portion of other elements such as zinc or phosphorus. It is a stronger, harder, and more durable than brass, and has been used more extensively since antiquity for cast sculpture. Bronze alloy varies in colors from silver hue to a rich copper red. Bronze casting is practically common in Benin. It is a way of life in Benin of practicing art. It's hereditary. You come to localities in Benin where you see tradesmen working on bronze casting. It's an old practice tradition in Benin. And you can see the pictures or the image of an Oba showing that it has been a long practice in Benin, most especially the lost wax procedure of bronze casting. The next is assemblage. What is assemblage? The techniques of creating a sculpture by joining together individual pieces or segments, sometimes found objects that originally served another purpose. Yes, the first picture there is referred to as assemblage. In our local schools here, we call it junks. It's a procedure whereby the artist goes around to scavenge mentals, waste mentals, and try to read meanings to them and put them together to form figures by wetting them, burning them, and trying to clean them, making sure that each of these, the shape of this metal are used to form any other functional object. The next one is burnishing. Burnishing. On your slide right now, you can see a flower vase. What is burnishing? Burnishing, the act of rubbing greenware, clay, with any smooth tool to polish it and tighten the surface. It's an act of smoothing either leather hard clay, wet clay to give this fine smoothing finishing on the clay surface. Casting, the process of making a sculpture or other object by pouring liquid materials such as clay, metal, or plastic into a mold and allow it to harden, thereby taking on the shape of the confining mold. Casting is a procedure of modeling and also a procedure for making cast in ceramics. There is a process called modeling and casting. It's a process whereby you model works with clay, then you have to create a mold where that will take the shape of what you've molded with clay. Then you can pour another clay body or a metal mold body to take the shape of what you've molded. Then the next is ceramics. Ceramics, the act of making objects of clay and firing them in a kiln wares of earthenware and porcelain, as well as sculpture, are made by ceramists. Enamel is also a ceramics technique. Ceramic materials may be decorated with slip, engulf, or glaze applied by any number of techniques. Sculpture usually made by coil, slab, or other manual techniques. Yes, ceramics covered a large portion of art, engineering, and medicine. Yes, what we have here is strictly on ceramics art, case whereby ceramics wares that are molded or with a throwing wheel and designed by slip, engulf, glaze by applying them on the surface, and also coil method. You can see pictures of ceramics works, ceramics plates display on the first picture. This ceramics ware have a general name for them. It is called ceramics pottery. Then the next one is ceramics art. You see a face of a tiger. This tiger is sculpted, fired as a bisque, then glazed with and go for a second firing, which is referred to as glaze firing. Coiling, a method of forming pottery or sculpture from rolls of clay that are smoothened together to form the sides of a jar or pot. You can see good example of coil method. These are coils pottery. You can see the picture that the surface of the pottery is coiled. Then the next word there we have is earthenware. Earthenware. Ceramics ware usually coarse and reddish in color, fired in the lowest temperature ranges, used for domestic wear, glaze or underglaze. Yes, that is a good example. The next picture there is a good example of earthenware. Most time it is reddish or brownish. It is a type of clay that is commonly found around our vicinity here. That's a good picture of earthenware clay. And the next one is firing. Firing. Heating pottery or sculpture in a kiln or open fire to bring the clay to maturity. The temperature needed to mature the clay varies with the type of body used. Also, heating glazed ware to the necessary point to cause the glaze to mature. Good example is this picture. You can see that is the interior of a fired clay, a fired kiln. This is an interior of a fired kiln. If you look carefully, you will see pottery, ceramics ware inside the kiln. This kiln is This picture is captured while the kiln is being fired, and this is the interior of a fired kiln, a red hot fired kiln. And this is what all our ceramics products go through when it comes to firing of ceramics ware. And most times, firing of ceramics ware goes into fire for first and the second time. The first firing is referred to as bisque firing. The second firing is referred to as gloss firing. Then the next word here we have is glaze. A very thin, transparent colored paint applied over a previous painted surface to alter the appearance and color of the surface. In ceramics, which is applied to the clay body, which, when fired to temperature, verified to form a thin, usually colored glass layer. Yes, like what this statement is saying, glaze materials are thin, fired glaze. Every glazed material is a ceramics, because a ceramics cannot stand on a glazed material cannot stand on its own. It must be rubbed on a body, and the glazed material are normally rubbed on clay. After the clay has been fired for the first time, which is referred to as bisque firing, then they applied a glazed material. Then once the glazed material is applied, the ceramics must go to the kiln for the second firing. Once that second firing is done, the ceramics become glossy, become shining. That is the glass-like effect you see in your ceramics ware, your wall tiles, your floor tiles, your bedroom bath, your wash and basin, all these glossing effect you see on your ceramics ware is referred to as glaze. As you can see on this picture right now, this image you are seeing right now is a ceramics. It was coated by glaze and it has to be fired for the second time, and that is why you are seeing this colorful glass-like effect. The next word is lost wax, a method of creating wax mold of a sculpture and then heating the mold to melt out the wax and replace it with a mounting mentor or resin. Yes, you are seeing two images. The first image with white background is a design which has been covered with mold, and you see an opening whereby something like gold brown has been poured into. Yes, that is the molten metal which has been poured into the designs to take the shape or the form of a design. That is how we actually use bronze melted molten to take designs which are casted and now which is then liberated after the molten metal has cooled down to take the shape of our designs. Most times when doing this, these melting metal they are ions, alloys of different kind put together, and they have to go through the furnace and melted within 800 700 degrees Celsius to become molten metal, and they now pour it into a mold to take the shape of what has been molded. And this is a good example of the next picture is a good example of a lost wax cast bender made by putting molten metal into a mold. Then the next word there is kiln. Kiln, a furnace or oven built of heat-resistant materials for firing pottery, glass, and sculpture. Here's a kiln. We have one in our school premises. Oh, that one is for firing of ceramics. Kiln is not used only for firing of clay works or ceramics. They are used for firing of glass works. They are used for firing of sculptures and every other product like wood that need to be heated. And that is a good example of a kiln, and that is an open draft kiln. You can see ceramics works, clay works inside that kiln, and you can, if you look carefully, you begin to see fire coming out from the both side of the kiln. And then this other picture that you are seeing, the first one is a kiln that is powered by gas, your liquefied gas, while the next one is a good example of an electric kiln. And a good example of an electric kiln is not common around this locality. You find them in Europe and America. Then the next word is greenware. Of greenware is unfired pottery or sculpture. Yes, you can see the first picture there is a dog sculpted, but if you look carefully, you find that the clay is not yet dry. And the next one is you see somebody cutting out clays into different shapes. That is a good example of a greenware clay. Then the next one is maquette. What is maquette? In sculpture, a small model in wax or clay made as a preliminary sketch presented to the client for approval of proposed work or for the entry in a competition. The Italian equivalent of the terms is bozzetto, meaning small sketch. Yes. As you can see, you see images of small images of art which most times are produced. They are the exact replicate of a major artwork. These works are produced and they are shown to people for commission. Most times, after the approval of the small work, they can go further to produce bigger work, or they can go further for mass production. So maquette is a replicant of the major work. Is a replicant of a major work, but in a small format. And most artists will prefer doing a maquette before they go into mass production or a major work. You can see another picture being displayed there is a good example of immaculate. That is where we'll be ending our class for today. See you in our next class. Bye-bye.